When you think of science, what comes to mind? Probably labs, right? White coats, textbooks, complex data. But what if I told you that one of the most sophisticated sciences in history wasn't written in books, but was written in the sand? Today we're digging into an incredible system of knowledge, one so precise it could solve the mysteries of family lineage centuries before we ever heard of DNA. So that's the big question we're tackling. How on earth could a society, one without widespread writing, develop a method for figuring out parentage with such mind-blowing accuracy? Well, the answer is hiding in plain sight, in a forgotten science written right there in the dust. To really get this, you have to picture two totally different worlds of knowledge. In the city, knowledge is formal. It's in books, it's taught in schools, but for the traditional Bedouin, life was always on the move. So knowledge had to be practical, something you could carry in your head. It was passed down from person to person, generation to generation. Their library wasn't made of paper. It was built from pure experience. And this really makes you think, doesn't it? We tend to automatically link science with reading and writing. But is that always how it works? The Bedouin world completely challenges that idea. It proves that you can have a deep, systematic, and rigorous science based on nothing more than intense observation of the world around you. Okay, so the foundation for this amazing knowledge has a name, Al-Qiyafah. Now, this wasn't just about following footprints. No. It was a whole system of analysis. It combined reading tracks in the sand with physiognomy. That's the art of observing physical features to figure out relationships and identities. This was their scientific framework for decoding the world. And the main tool they used, the key that unlocked Al-Qiyafah, was an art called Qas al-Athar, which basically means reading the tracks. And this is where the science starts to feel almost supernatural. An expert tracker could just glance at a little depression in the sand and read an entire story from it. So, what kind of secrets are we talking about here? What were these incredible stories that trackers could pull right out of the dust? Let's dive in. Get ready for this, because the level of detail is just unbelievable. I mean, sure, telling a human from a camel print, easy enough. But telling a male camel from a female just by the weight of its step? Or, get this, knowing if a camel is pregnant, or that it's blind in one eye just because its path has a tiny swerve to it? This wasn't guesswork. It was a science of seeing the absolute tiniest details. And these skills were not just for fun. We're talking about life or death applications. Take the story of a tracker named Hamad al-Zawida. He spots the tracks of 4 strangers, spies, on his tribe's land. And he just follows them for 30 kilometers across the open desert until those men were caught. That's tribal security at its most fundamental level. This skill was so precise, it just baffled modern people. In the 1970s, an Egyptian engineer working out in the desert was just blown away that the local trackers could find him no matter where he went. He said, "They know my footprint even when I change my shoes. They find me without asking anyone." To them, his walk was like a fingerprint. It was completely unique. Here's a story that sounds like it's straight out of a spy movie. A tribal chief spots an unfamiliar footprint just after a helicopter flies by. So he follows the track, finds the stranger at a nearby house, and starts observing. The guy's accent doesn't match the tribe he says he's from, and his clothes are all wrinkled, like he's been sitting in a vehicle. It all added up. They took him to the police, and sure enough, he was the spy from the helicopter. But it wasn't all about crime and espionage. The skill also points to an absolutely insane capacity for memory. There's this story of a young man who secretly visits his love, and he's smart. He wears a different pair of shoes to cover his tracks. A full year goes by. He gets a little careless, wears those same shoes again, and bam! A relative of the girl immediately recognizes the print from a year ago. A whole year. He only got away with it by quickly lying that he just bought the shoes off a stranger. Okay, so tracking strangers is one thing, and it's amazing. But the ultimate application of Al-Qiyafah, the part that truly is like a pre-modern DNA test, was its use in settling disputes about who was related to whom. And in the Bedouin world, there was one tribe that was absolutely legendary for this skill, the Murri. Their ability to read family lines from physical traits and footprints was so profound, so eerily accurate, that other tribes would whisper that they couldn't possibly be human. They said they had to be descended from jinn. And some of the stories about them, well, they'll give you chills. In one famous tale, a Murri man is visiting a friend. The host brings out food, showing him the greatest hospitality. But the Murri guest refuses to eat. Now that is a huge insult, unless you have a very, very good reason. And the Murray guest's reason was a bombshell. He said, "I will not eat from the food of a man married to his sister." Just by observing the host and his wife, the way they walked, their features, he had concluded they were siblings. And when it was investigated, it turned out he was right. It was a secret hidden from the entire world, but not from the eyes of a Murray expert. And look, this wasn't just folklore. This skill was so trusted, it was used in formal legal courts. In 1945, a huge paternity case was brought before a tribunal in Saudi Arabia. A girl was being claimed by two different men from two different tribes. With no birth certificates, no DNA tests, how do you solve that? Well, you call in the experts. And to make sure it was 100% objective, they set it up like a proper scientific trial. They appointed 3 separate teams of 3 Murray experts each. One team appointed by the judge, one by the man claiming to be the father, and one by the man raising the girl. All 9 experts examined the girl's feet and her tracks, and, working completely independently, every single one of them came to the exact same unanimous conclusion. The girl belonged to the Sharawari man. Case closed. So you see, Al-Qiyafah was clearly not superstition. It wasn't a lucky guess. It was a repeatable, verifiable system that was trusted to deliver actual justice. It was a true science, honed over centuries of intense observation, where the desert itself was both the laboratory and the textbook. And that's what really leaves you thinking, isn't it? The story of this Bedouin science is a powerful reminder that knowledge comes in all shapes and sizes. It really makes you wonder, in our modern world that's so focused on data and text on a screen, what other incredible systems of human wisdom have we completely missed just because they weren't written down in a book?